Ladies and gentlemen, who could have seen that coming? Macbeth, the end of the play. Now, in Macbeth, there's a couple fundamental components at the end of the play that really I want to break down with you today. First of all, we look at Lady Macbeth and the role of feminism. Lady Macbeth, in the beginning of the play, basically plots the murder of King Duncan and gets her husband to do it. She wants this power. She shows her greed, and this woman who is enthralled with this greed and power ultimately loses her mind and commits suicide. She continuously, near the end of the play, makes references to blood on her hands that she cannot get out. Shakespeare uses blood imagery to represent Lady Macbeth's consciousness. The blood is not actually physically there. But while there is no physical blood on her hands, all she sees is blood on her consciousness. The blood is representing, of course, the murder of Duncan, of Banquo, and Macduff's family. Her greed to kill King Duncan ultimately creates a tyrant in Macbeth who cannot control his actions, and ultimately they both carry out horrific acts. Now, after the nurse tells Macbeth of his wife's passing, we have a very sad moment here where Macbeth now contemplates what life is really about without Lady Macbeth. He's very saddened by his wife's passing, which to me is always a little bit alarming because Macbeth, seems to be very independent and an independent tyrant at this point. So when he sees this, or when he finds out of his wife's passing, he becomes very sad right before this battle is about to break out. Now, if there's ever a time that we feel sorry or empathetic for Macbeth, this is probably it. But Macbeth ultimately gets what he kind of deserves at the end. Now, the irony of who kills Macbeth? Well, none other than the first apparition, which is Macduff. After killing Macduff's entire family, the moment we've all been waiting for finally comes. We see Birnam wood, branches that soldiers are carrying as a disguise, walk to Dunsinane. And Macbeth, of course, is completely alarmed by this. Then we see Macbeth and Macduff finally fighting head to head. And as this battle ensues, just as Macbeth says, I got nothing to fear because the witches say that no one born of a woman can harm me, Macduff drops a banger. He says, I wasn't naturally born of a woman. I was born from a C-section, meaning he didn't come through a natural birthing process. Ba-bing! Ultimately, Macduff at this point kills Macbeth. But Macbeth, prior to losing in this fight, immediately starts to back off Macduff, realizing that the witches have played with him. That's what you get, Macbeth, because after all the horrible actions you get, karma came back to get him. Now, in this situation, what's the lesson that we learned? Well, of course, that greed and power are not good things. Macbeth is not the most intelligent human when you really look at it. If he actually believes in the witches' prophecies, which he seems to because he goes back to them numerous times, he would understand that he never really had to take matters into his own hand if he wanted to become king. Because if he believed that the witches were accurate, he would have become king inevitably. It didn't have to happen at that moment. If they said that he would become king hereafter, why does he have to kill King Duncan in order to acquire that? He could just let matters fall the way that they would have naturally fallen. Ultimately, this creates a tragedy. As many lives are lost, Lady Macbeth commits suicide. Macbeth is dead. Macduff's family is killed. Banquo is done. But who do we know will be king after Malcolm, who then becomes king? Who do we know will become king in the future? Well, none other than the prophecy to Banquo in Act 1, Scene 3, the Leons. I hope you all enjoyed the play. It was a pleasure going through this with you. Should you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Thank you so much and have yourselves a great day.